There are different ways that we can actually strengthen it. One of the ways is going to be through bracing. When you think of bracing, think of if you were to get ready to accept a punch. When somebody wants to punch you in the stomach, you're going to tighten up your core really tightly. And when you tighten that up, what's going to happen is you're going to engage your TVA. You're also going Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to do a TVA Awareness Exercise. Your TVA, or your Transverse Abdominis, is one of your abdominal muscles, and it is your deepest abdominal muscle. You basically have your recti abdominis, that is your six-pack muscle, and it is the one where its fibers run vertically, and it's the most superficial. Then underneath that, you have external obliques. Your external obliques, those ones from lateral to medial, they run on a downward diagonal. Then you have your internal obliques that are a little bit deeper. Your internal obliques, it's the opposite. From lateral to medial, they go on an upward diagonal, and then your deepest, that is going to be your transverse abdominis. With regard to your transverse abdominis, in terms of the anatomy of the transverse abdominis, it is going to attach to the lateral third of the inguinal ligament, all the way to the thoracolumbar fascia and the lower 6 costal cartilages, so your ribs 7 to 12. And then it's also going to attach to the aponeurosis of the abdominal, so the abdominal aponeurosis. And in terms of its action, what it's going to be responsible for is compression of the abdominal contents. Now, the reason that the TVA is so significant is because when this muscle gets very weak, what happens is you can experience a lot of low back pain because your TVA, or your transverse abdominis, is a really strong spinal stabilizer. You could think of it as your body's internal weightlifting belt system. Basically, whenever you put on a weightlifting belt, and you see a lot of bodybuilders do this, what's going to happen is that is going to replace your activation of your transverse abdominis. So if you're the type of person where you always use a weightlifting belt, your TVA is going to get really weak, and that could eventually lead to things like back pain. So you want to be able to strengthen your TVA if you have any issues with regard to back pain, and just in general to have a nice, strong, stable, healthy core. With regard to the actual TVA muscle itself, there are different ways that we can actually strengthen it. One of the ways is going to be through bracing. When you think of bracing, think of if you were to get ready to accept a punch. When somebody wants to punch you in the stomach, you're going to tighten up your core really tightly. And when you tighten that up, what's going to happen is you're going to engage your TVA. You're also going to engage all of your other abdominal muscles as well. Another way that we could end up strengthening the TVA is through hollowing. Hollowing, you could think of it as the bodybuilding pose when they do the vacuum pose. It's essentially sucking your stomach in as much as possible. So what you would do is, I'm going to show you from the side. You want to just take an inhale and then try to bring your belly button toward the spine as much as you can. And that is hollowing. Now, with regard to those two specific exercises, the hollowing exercise, I actually made a video a while back. It was the segmental strengthening and reinforcement exercise for the transverse abdominis. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to include a link right up over here. But with regard to those two specific exercises, bracing is going to be a little bit better in terms of actually strengthening the TVA. And one of the reasons is with regard to strengthening the TVA and also alleviating back pain. The reason it's going to be a little bit more effective is because when you do bracing, you are not only strengthening your transverse abdominis, but you are also strengthening all of your core muscles. So you're going to be strengthening your rectus abdominis, your external oblique, your internal oblique, even your lumbar erectors. Whereas with regard to hollowing, when you do hollowing, all you're really doing is activating your transverse abdominis. So you're not going to get the engagement of all those other abdominal muscles. Now, with regard to the actual exercise that I'm going to be demonstrating for you today, which is going to be the awareness exercise, this is something that I learned from Paul Chek over a decade ago, and I still use it today in my coaching practice, and it's really effective at helping people use their TVA when they are performing different exercises. And this can be applied to absolutely any exercise that you are doing whatsoever. I like using it for things like the deadlift and the squat, but you can use it for absolutely any exercise. What you want to do is you want to take a string and you want to cut it to the length that you could place it around your actual abdominals. Once you put it around your abdominals, what you would want to do is you want to get it nice and tight, and then from this position over here, you are going to do the hollowing action. Remember, the hollowing, you're drawing your belly button toward your spine. So you would take a nice deep breath in, and then you would hollow your body, so bring your belly button in toward your spine. When you're doing this awareness exercise, you're not going to draw your belly button in as far as I was doing it for the hollowing exercise. That was just to illustrate the point of what the transverse abdominis does. But once you have the string, you could just tie it up nicely and give it a little bit of a knot. And then this is going to act as a biofeedback mechanism, meaning whenever you start to lose contraction of your TVA, when you start to go out with your stomach, you're going to feel a little bit of a snugness on the string. So let's say you're doing something like a deadlift. What you could do is you could inhale, expand the belly button. Exhale, draw the belly button toward the spine, and just go enough that the string is very, very light. You don't want it to fall, and you don't want it to feel really snug around the stomach. Then when you're doing exercises like deadlift, what you want to do is you want to perform the action without letting the string dig into your belly button. If you can perform the action without allowing the string to dig in, what that means is that you have good awareness of your transverse abdominis and you're engaging it throughout the entire exercise. And this is going to be really good at making sure that your core is strong and stable. So if you are somebody who's afraid to do things like deadlifting because you're afraid you're going to hurt your back, this would be a great exercise to incorporate. And this would be really good when you're first starting to do these exercises to incorporate it at very, very light loads. So less than 60% of your 1 repetition maximum. Then once you start getting really, really good with your TVA awareness, you can eventually just get rid of the string altogether and then perform the exercise without having to use any type of biofeedback mechanism. But that is going to be a terrific exercise that you guys can incorporate into your actual training program. I highly recommend that you do it, especially if you have any type of dysfunction with regard to low back pain or also your pelvis. One of the reasons why it's going to be very important to strengthen your TVA is because, again, your TVA is going to be responsible for compression of the abdominal contents. What's going to happen is if you have a very, very weak TVA, your abdominal contents, you are going to protrude in the belly. When the belly starts to protrude, all of the weight of the viscera and the abdominal contents is going to bring your posture forward. That is going to bring you into hyperlordosis of the spine. Hyperlordosis is when you get excessive curvature of the lumbar spine. And this could lead to anteversion of the pelvis, which could lead to a lot of issues with regard to low back pain. So by strengthening your TVA and all of the muscles in that surrounding area, it can greatly help alleviate any symptoms of low back pain. So go ahead and do those exercises. You can do the awareness exercise just to get a good idea of how exactly your TVA works, and then you could try doing bracing and hollowing. And those exercises, the bracing and the hollowing, you could do them absolutely anywhere. You could do it sitting down in a chair, standing up, at the park, at your grandmother's house, wherever you are. You don't need any equipment whatsoever to do it. And that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to make more of these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.